Okay, good evening. This is the Hexham Town Council of Monday the 13th of November 2023, 6 o'clock in Prior Hall, Hexham Abbey. So welcome, I'm Derek Kennedy, I'm the Mayor of Hexham and Chairman of this meeting. For our first item, we are going to introduce a presentation by Dr. David Dixon, who is our new Tyne Valley Bicycle Mayor. So David, 10-15 minutes.
Yeah, thank you very much.
Welcome.
No questions first?
No?
No questions at all?
Yes, questions will be on. We'll do second doing this first.
Okay, well, thank you very much for inviting me, and I'm very honoured to be the cycling mayor for Tynedale, I have to say. When I made the application, I thought it was only the cycling mayor for Hexham, but it was a bigger remit than I'd actually envisaged. But anyway, I think Hexham is at the heart of it, really, because of the way that it is at the heart of Tynedale in so many ways. So I'm hoping to give you an overview of some of the thoughts that I've had since moving to Hexham, because I'm a relatively recent newcomer. So I've been on a steep learning curve, and I'm quite happy to continue on that steep learning curve. So I'm more than happy to talk to you individually or in groups at a later date if you want to put me right or tell me things which you think I ought to know, etc., etc. So I'm very receptive to anything like that. The one thing I didn't want to do was to sort of parachute in and then think I know everything, because obviously I don't. I did live in London beforehand, and we did quite a lot of cycling development work there in various capacities. So I have got that sort of experience, but this isn't London, and I quite understand that. And from my accent, you can tell I'm not from London either, so please don't hold that against me either. So very quickly, before I go over some of the areas that I wanted to cover as the cycling mayor, I just wanted to give you some thoughts on some of the challenges that I've seen immediately, particularly in Hexham. And I've moved to the centre of Hexham, so I've done quite a lot of cycling throughout the town and also in the surrounding area. I've had a look at your strategy for Hexham, and obviously on this sort of road user hierarchy, cycling is just below where pedestrians are in terms of the importance that you want to give to other means of transport. And I know that there are some contentious issues between road users other than car users, and I don't want to be part of that, because there's some culture wars going on there, and I certainly don't want to be part of that. So another thing I want to portray across Tynedale is that I'm not anti-car by any means, because if I didn't portray myself as that, I think that would be counterproductive, particularly when you're trying to change hearts and minds. And really, I think when you're trying to change people's mindset in terms of being more favourable to cycling and to adopt it themselves, you're trying to change a culture, a transport culture, and that doesn't happen overnight. And it certainly doesn't happen if you try and dictate terms and do a lot of finger pointing. So I'm going to avoid all that. But at the same time, I do want to see some positive change for the good of everyone, car users included. So the aspirations for cycling, there's a lot of plans out there. There's plans at Northumberland level, as you know. There's Tynedale level ones. There's Hexham Town level ones. There's an awful lot of plans and a lot of strategy. And what I'd like to do, amongst other things, is to try and pull some of this together and to join some of the dots and to help facilitate that, so that we get some actions that really do make a difference. Because you can do an awful lot of talking and strategizing, and as we know, actually doing something is a whole new ball game. So I want to use the strengths that we've already got here, so that we can actually move that into doing some practical applications. Now, one of the concerns that I wanted to raise, and this isn't an anti-car thing, it's just a reality thing really, is that with the rise of SUVs, sports utility vehicles, where the situation in towns like Hexham and other places in Tynedale is only going to be worse in terms of the congestion and the consequences of more people buying these sorts of vehicles. They're just taking up more space. And when you've got pinch points in places like Hexham, that makes those pinch points even tighter. So with the inexorable rise of the SUV, we do need to do something pretty quickly, really, in order to try and encourage more people to leave their SUVs at home, rather than driving them short distances in particular. And some of the strategies which I've looked at and some of the ideas that I have sort of fits into that scenario. So it's not saying ban them, it's saying how can we encourage people not to use them so much, particularly in a tight urban area. Yeah, so as I've said, it's quite a challenge because they take up more parking bays. They're bigger than the statutory space for a parking bay in the UK now. They take up road space. They wear out roads faster. There are emissions from their tyres, which are much greater than other vehicles because they're heavier and the tyres are bigger. And this also applies to the electric vehicles as well. So it's not as though going to electric SUVs or electric cars for that matter is going to solve congestion problems, and also it's not going to solve some of the pollution problems either. So this is another reason for trying to move as quickly as possible into encouraging far more people to leave their cars at home. So what I've done is I've done a sort of mapping exercise for my benefit, and this is based on the application that I put in to be the cycling mayor in the first place. So what I've done is to pull that together in another sort of form, in a mapping exercise like this. And I was going to just talk, not through everything, because we'll be here all night, but one or two items from that, which I just wanted to highlight at this relatively early stage. Now, I have got a copy of this, which you're very welcome to have, if you'd like to pass that along. And I think from looking at all the reports and the strategies so far for the area, a lot of the recommendations for actions are based around the infrastructure issues. And I know myself that cycling around Hexham is quite a challenge, and you actually don't see many people cycling. It's not just the hills, it's the obstacles, it's the pinch points, it's the lack of parking spaces for bikes. It's the lack of designated cycleways, it's getting across the Tyne, it's getting from the station to the supermarket areas and vice versa. It's getting to the station at all, actually, from the town centre. If you go on a bike, it's very, very hazardous, actually. I know this myself because I was cycling from Prior Terrace, where I live, to the station with my 9-year-old daughter, and it's quite a lottery. And I had to get her to cycle mostly on the pavement when I cycled by the side of her, in order for us to get from Prior Terrace on to into the station area. So the reality of cycling in Hexham is pretty grim, actually. And I've cycled several months here now, so I know all about it. Now, I'm a confident cyclist. I've cycled through London, I cycled across Lisbon during the summer. So that doesn't daunt me. But for most people, it is very daunting. And having spoken to people like the head teacher at Hexham Middle School, he said that the number of kids, since they moved to the new site, who are cycling has dropped drastically. And particularly children who live in the east, who travel to the west, but not exclusively. So in actual fact, although it's great to have a new school, the transport consequences have been quite dire in terms of cycling. So the infrastructure is the elephant in the room, really, that isn't going to go away. And so we need to look at some easy wins here, I think, in order to take things forward. Because until you make cycling easier for people, less enthusiastic and zealous cyclists like me aren't going to want to do it. The other 2 or 3 things I wanted to highlight were things like the lack of bike shops for bike maintenance, either to buy second-hand bikes, but certainly to have bikes maintained. And so even if you've got a bike in Hexham, it's quite difficult to get it maintained. Now I know that there have been some schemes set up to help with that, but we haven't got an actual shop. We haven't got a place where people can see where to go. So I'd like to try and encourage some business to set up really, and I've been making sort of tentative inquiries with people about that. Because if we had a cycle shop, then that in itself would raise the profile and it would make cycling easier. And you could buy a cheap bike perhaps. The other aspect of that is sort of the bike to work scheme you can see there. So that employers can encourage their employees to commute, and they get discounted cycles and they pay for the payroll on a monthly basis, and then they can make a payment at the end to own the cycle. And I know that EGA, for instance, run this scheme. And I'm trying to find out how many people actually take it up at the moment. And also anyone who works for Northumberland County Council, they also have bought into that scheme as well. So it'd be nice to know how many Northumberland County Council people take that up. But of course, if you're, say, going to Newcastle and you want to get to the station on a bike, it brings you back to that problem again. So I think linking up the infrastructure, linking up cycling with public transport is another sort of issue that I think we need to look at. And all of that and more that I could go through, which obviously I haven't got time for tonight, is embracing this 15-minute city concept, where you can walk or cycle to everything that you would need within your geographic area. And I think that's the sort of thing we need to move towards as well. They do this very successfully on the continent in many towns, similar to Hexham sometimes. So I don't see why we can't do that sort of thing here. But as I said, we've got to change hearts and minds, I think, as much as anything else, in order to get the culture right, so that we can take all these sorts of things forward. But I think there'd be bigger wins if we could, because I think there are all sorts of economic advantages to Hexham if we can get this right. We know that if we could increase the tourism, we'd have more hired bikes for people who come and stay for their holidays, for instance. And I think there's also increased job opportunities, not just in the bike shop, but for people who are made more employable because they can get themselves to work easier if they can't or don't want to own a car, or get themselves to public transport easily. So there's that as well. And I think the use of cargo bikes could be an asset to the town as well, with local businesses delivering by cargo bikes rather than by vans, and that in itself will cut down congestion. So I think there's a lot to play for here, and I'm very excited by it. This is why when the prospect of being the mayor came up, I was very enthusiastic about going for it. I didn't think I would stand much of a chance, actually, being quite a newcomer. But as I say, newcomers can help by having a new perspective on things. But I'm not arrogant enough to think that I've got all the answers, or we'll be doing X, Y, Z things in a very short amount of time. I need to network, as I've indicated, and communicate some of the ideas which are already here and well established, and get people on board so that we can move forward. So that's a very sort of brief overview. As I say, you can have a look at that, and I can give you more details about that as we move forward. But it's all about partnership working, and this is what I'm here for.
Excellent. Can we do some questions? So I'm going to bring Tom in first, because being of EGA, I would have mentioned of EGA, so Tom's got an answer to that question, or we maybe take it away and find us out.
No, I was interested. You said that you would like to do some quick wins within the town to make cycling better. And I was just wondering if you could elaborate on what the quick wins might be.
Well, some of the quick wins might be extending the number of people who get into the bike for work scheme. So your company, I gather, has signed up for it. I'm trying to find. I've emailed someone to find out how many actually have signed up and who it operates for now, and whether there's scope for expanding that. And similarly, I've contacted other big firms in Tyndale to see if they've signed up for it, or if perhaps with the potential for them to do so. So that would be a quick win, because we get more people commuting on bikes, almost overnight, if we have more people signing up to that particular scheme.
Okay.
Would you really help that on there, Tom? Are you-
Well, it's on, everyone's aware that they can get free bikes, free bikes, they can get the cycle to work scheme to payroll. They've recently improved their offer as well.
Right.
And it's available to everyone, there's no limit.
That's good. It would be nice to know how many have actually signed up for it.
Yeah, I don't know that.
Yeah. Well, I've emailed one of your colleagues to see if we can find out.
Yeah.
But then I think we ought to flag that up as a success that other firms might sort of emulate. So I think it would be good to just get that information out there really.
Yeah. Good. Mike, you were next. And Brendan.
Yeah, congratulations on getting that position. Excellent. Well done. Would you be able to, with the Hexham Corbridge track that should be starting work next year, and having I've done the coast to coast here with bikes on the train. The Network Rail only seem to allocate 2 spaces on the train from Newcastle. And once the 2 spaces have gone, then you can't put your bike on the train.
Yeah.
And knowing what Network Rail are like, at this point, we're about to start knocking on their door to start to push them towards how they could increase from 2 to more, so that people can take the train out to Hexham, they could cycle back to.
Oh, definitely, yeah.
Whatever, they can go straight down the line and bring people in. But at the moment, the train Network Rail just don't seem to be very sort of friendly.
No, you'd think they would be, wouldn't you? But no, I definitely will be sort of racking their cage at some point. I know that the intercity trains, these new Azuma trains from Newcastle that go south and north to Edinburgh, they've had less cycles since they've had the new trains come in. When they had the old guards vans, it didn't really matter how many people turned up with a bike, they always had enough capacity. But now you've got to book it, it's quite a complicated process. So, but yes, I'll certainly be racking the cage of the rail company.
So just to add to that, so the Tyne Valley rail users, it may be worth connecting with them,
Right.
rather than going direct to the rail companies. Maybe we're connecting with them first of all, just to like start a conversation and work with them on that.
Oh, great. Yeah. That's good.
Yeah, one is a suggestion that might have already thought of, but if we don't have very many big employers, particularly in Hexham, at the health service and the corollary between cycling and health, I would have thought if they're not doing the scheme or they're not pushing it, then there might be a bit of leverage there.
Oh, that's a good idea. Yeah, we'd tick all their boxes, wouldn't it?
Yeah, a lot of people would work there. And also, I'm just wondering how you. Well, I mean, it's not just a question for you, actually, that's for all of us, because we individually and as a council have got lots of knowledge about sort of contacts, that's just like you just said, it'd be good to get that way done. So what's a conduit? How do we communicate with you and you communicate with us in order that we can probably save quite a bit of time in terms of the contacts we have and the ideas that we have that might help you?
Well, I'm more than happy for you to email me directly. And as I said, I'm more than happy to meet you individually or in smaller groups if there are certain things which we could work on together.
Because I sort of suggestion might be that you could come to a particular committee meeting from time to time.
Yeah, I'd be more than happy to do that.
Yeah. I think obviously Mike would be the obvious candidate for that. I think obviously Mike's been in contact with David Morse and he's a chair of planning and infrastructure, so that's the obvious.
Yeah.
So
I think as well, because having read all the strategy reports, like I say, from Northumberland down, it seems that the phrase missed opportunities has arisen quite a lot with new developments that have happened, particularly in Hexham. And I think we need to perhaps steel ourselves for being a little bit more stroppy about why cycling and walking, for that matter, haven't been more integrated in some of the new developments, and whether we can revisit some of those in order to get back to some sort of sanity with helping cycling and pedestrians. I think particularly the block tunnels, for instance, that seemed to me very silly is a word that springs to mind, but it was definitely a missed opportunity because it in effect has blocked routes that could usefully be used now and would take more traffic off the road as a result, I'm sure.
Steve?
I've got a few, if I may, a little bit open-ended, 3 questions. There's almost universal support for 20 miles an hour around Hexham. what impact would that be in terms of supporting cycling within the town? The second question, and it's something that all the media seems to pick up, is the electric bicycles and the mopeds. Is that a problem? Is it a danger? Is it something that you've looked at, and what's your position on that? I'm just going on Penny's point of view. I go to the Bowman sometimes and I talk to everybody, and people come to Hexham to cycle. So is there an opportunity of forming some sort of cycle club where, you know, there is that liaison? I know there's individual liaisons with various people, but it would be useful if there was a cycling club as a general consensus, not just for attracting visitors to the town and what's the best routes around Hexham, but simply to get their feedback. So the first one was the 20 mile an hour one.
Yeah. Well, I think 20 mile an hour will definitely help, because I think it would, I mean, it's proved, isn't it, that 20 miles an hour, if you do have an accident with a pedestrian or a cyclist, you're going to cause less damage. But I think enforcing it might be an issue that we need to ask questions about, because I know coming down Prior Hill into the town, the cars generally go more than 30 miles an hour from what I can see, and they're going straight into so-called 20 mile an hour zone. It's not happening. I think that's true in other parts as well. So I think we do need to look at enforcement in order to make sure that 20 miles an hour does do what it's supposed to do, which I think, you know, which I'm all for, because I think it does help to give non-car users a great deal more confidence when they're out on the road, and they're less liable to get injured as a result. So sorry, the second...
The electric moped, and what's your position on that?
Yeah, well, the electric bikes, this is now part of the bike to work scheme, so that you can get that through your employer as well, through the payroll instalment system that we were talking about earlier. So I think that they are to be commended, really, because it does help older people to become cyclists. And I think that helps their mobility, and once again, it may be a case of taking some cars off the road as a result of that. With the scooters, there's been a lot of controversy about that, and you do tend to get mad youths on scooters. I've not seen a mad youth on an electric bike, I have to say, but you do see mad youths on scooters. So that is something which I'm not quite so clear on, and I think that would need to be carefully thought about. It's been thought about at the national level as well as, you know, local levels as well. So I think we've got to be wary of those. They're okay in the hands of you know, sensible people, but they tend to go into the hands of non-sensible people.
And is there any merit in the cycle concept, or is that?
Definitely, I think the only problem with cycling clubs, as you sometimes see them, is that they can be these mammals, you know, these middle-aged men in lycra, which in itself is good, you know, is good for them, but they can be quite aggressive on the road, actually, and it can be off-putting for other people. But I think if you had more a cycling club which was inclusive, and you had different grades of ride, if you like, so that you had short rides, but people who didn't want to go right up into the malls, etc., then I think that would work very nicely. And I think there are some cycle clubs around, but I'm not quite sure what they are or where they are. But I think cycling clubs are to be commended, definitely.
Right, so Suzanne, and then Ginny, and then Mark.
All right, just a few points to follow up on, and I'd like to sort of open these up a little further. To go back to some points that were raised about NCC, yes, it does have the biking scheme, and no, I haven't taken a look because it's Morpeth, and it's a bit long way to get there.
Yeah, I think we let you off on that.
The NHS also does, has been signed up to that.
Right.
And he does use his bike a lot. He is a mammal.
Yes.
However, he does have very long hours.
Well, I'm a mammal as well, you see, so I'm not.
Well, yeah, he's a mammal and proud, and yeah, but it's very long hours, so it does depend how long he's going to be and how many visits he has to do and things like that. So this all, you know, the NHS certainly do push it, which is brilliant, and from a health point of view, absolutely. The thing about the rail, I didn't know. I thought bikes were allowed on the train, so I'm really interested to follow that one up.
They do restrict the numbers.
Only two.
Yeah.
Two.
Yeah.
on the actual, not per person, I presume, but there's just 1, 2 on the actual trains.
Yeah.
Wow, that's very.
But they only have 2 or 3 coaches, don't they? So they're not very big trains.
Two
anyway.
coaches.
Two coaches. Right.
That's right. I've heard also recently that buses don't do it as well. So the commuting thing with our bus services, we pump a load of money in to go northeast, and I'm really quite shocked to find out recently that they don't allow bikes on some of their.
They do if they're folding bikes.
If
but
they're-
not-
yes, there's obviously that's the caveat. But they're being called into one of the local area committees soon. So I'd like to raise that with them directly. That it seems to me a nonsense that can't be done. The 20 mile an hour thing, yes, there are a lot of roads in Hexham that are already 20 mile an hour. And the Corbridge Road where the cycle scheme is going to go on the South Shore. We have been asking as part of that, and I know the residents want to demo for that all to be sort of 20 mile an hour, because there's no point in making things safer for cyclists if you're not also safer for pedestrians. So the two, to my mind, go hand in hand, so certainly doing the highway code. So we'd be asking for certainly 20 miles an hour all the way along that approach in, along the new cycle corridor, which would be really
But I
good.
do think, as I said, from my experience, there's awful lot of speeding in Hexham.
So it is,
Really
yes, and that does come down to, you can put up as many signs as you like,
Yeah.
but there's no police and enforcement,
No.
you're absolutely right, it's, yeah. But the dots, you're right, the dots on the maps we were talking about earlier do need to be joined up in Tynedale, very much so, they seem to just stand alone in like little
It's
lost.
just some great plans. I mean,
Yeah.
you wouldn't have to do much more planning, actually, really. If you look at all the plans that are out there at the moment.
But they just
Some
need
great
to,
plans.
come be brought together, don't they,
Yeah.
in some ways, so there's great routes that could happen. I think Mike's been working on quite a few things with the Hayden Bridge one, haven't you? And then there's the,
So, I'm going to take your question.
yeah, well, the question is, well, also, the cycling clubs as well.
So question, you went over all the points that we've already talked
Yeah,
about.
but I just think it's really exciting, and I think we could certainly, well, all I'm saying is that we could certainly give help with that, and certainly the conversations are there to be had and taken forward with different, we've got these contacts, as Penny says, and it's being able to elevate that further on all those points that you've raised. I think it's absolutely
Well,
fascinating.
perhaps we could have a separate meeting.
Yeah, it's not cultural, it's definitely more than that. So, yes, well done, and well done for being elected.
Question?
It's not a question, actually, it's a suggestion. I went to visit my mum in Seattle this summer, and Seattle has a couple of really, really good innovative schemes for transporting bikes. So on their trains, your little luggage compartment, they actually have wall features that bikes can slot into upright, so that you can fit more bikes in there. And the buses have a rack on the front of the bus where you can slot in about 4 or 5 bikes, and obviously they're fine because the driver can see them.
Yeah, they have that in European countries as well.
Yeah, possible things that we can pick up on there.
Yeah, good idea.
Yeah.
Okay, Mike, one question.
Chair, is it okay if we just recognise John for the work that he's put into it?
Thank you very much. Yeah. Very good, excellent. I'm sure we shall engage
Sorry, can I just say thank you very much to David for putting your head above the parapet and volunteering for this very difficult task, which is unfair. It's entirely down to David and his time, and he's volunteered for this, and I think that's brilliant. Not only is that brilliant, but the fact that we've got someone who speaks the same language as the town council with the sustainable transport policy and active travel Tynedale. And I just think you fit very well into the person that not only Hexham have been looking for, but the other 9 parish and town councils up and down the Tyne Valley that were seeking you as well. I'm so pleased we found you.
Well, I'm sure this is the start of the relationship and a long engagement, so we look forward to engaging again.
Well, thank you very much, and I do appreciate your support, your collective support, and I knew that from John actually that there was that support there, and I don't think I would have taken it on if I hadn't had that in the background. So thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Okay. Right, we shall go to our next speaker, which is to receive a presentation from Wendy Dale, the chairperson of Haindale, U3A.
I did want to have something on a loop, so can you just give me 2 minutes to see if it works? So I didn't come early, but I wasn't allowed to get
Yeah, well, you do that. We'll go through, 1 or 2 things here. So, we'll do that. So we can turn now to council. Item number 1, which is council to hear questions from Hexham residents regarding matters on the agenda or related to Hexham. Questions? Anybody? Questions? Lady first. Lady first.
Okay. I
Name,
I'm Wendy Breach, I'm an Hexham resident.
thank you.
I don't want to seem like I'm carping at the entire town council.
Question,
My
please. Question.
So I will preface my question by saying how I have welcomed so many initiatives, including including John's and the bicycle mayor from this town council that's really quite a breath of fresh air. However, I was rather aghast to read in the draft but quite candid minutes of the Community Engagement Committee that what seems to be a minority of councillors have refused to allow a county councillor who's not from Hexham to give a short presentation about water quality and sewage pollution in the River Tyne. The reason given was that this might be politically motivated. So may I ask those councillors why on earth to be politically motivated should bar anyone from giving a presentation to the town council? What on earth is meant by politically motivated? And if the alternative speaker, who I hear might be from Northumbrian Water, and if they ever materialise, how is that speaker from Northumbrian Water going to offer to educate you all? I could tell you a number of things that Northumbrian Water representative won't be telling you. But anyway, that's enough.
Yeah, so I'll answer that. So there's 14 councillors on this council, and we represent this town. There isn't 15 councillors on this town council, there's 14. So the subject was raised of water quality. Now, if we wanted, and it's a very important subject, we all recognise that and said fine. So to go to the source of the organisation that represents water quality is Northumbria Water. So that's who we've asked. And that they've been invited, James, that's correct, isn't it?
I haven't been doing that.
All right, so I wrote the clause to see how we have a representative contact Northumbrian Water to be to the secretary. So we're getting an invite to the water authority to come to the Hexham Town Council, where we've been discussing the matter with them. But it is not for a county councillor who is not an expert in the said field to come to the town council to talk about that. It's never happened before, and it won't happen. We will have Northumbria Water to come here. And that's the answer to the question.
But you haven't answered.
No, I have
What do
answered
you
the
mean
question.
by politically motivated?
Because it's from a political party. No. Question.
Question?
So if you want to stand and
Yeah, sorry. So Hexham residents are here. Green Hill, last time or 2 times ago, I asked a question about divesting the pensions. You unanimously agreed to send a letter to request this. I wanted to know whether there's been a response and what the response was.
Yeah, I shall bring Suzanne in on that one. That's my question.
I wasn't at that meeting where Mike eloquently put forward that motion that was then taken to the Northumbrian County Council, which was really fortunate because the week before we've been in a committee, the Climate Change Working Group, I'm on, and we had asked exactly the same question because Northumbrian were wanting to redo their climate policy for 2024 to 25. So we were really excited, there was a few of us on the committee, and I asked that question, and to be told that it's South Tyneside, so it's in the hands of South Tyneside Council. They are doing a review, they're conducting a review at the moment into those pension investments, which is brilliant. And so, although we're kind of going through NCC to do it, and I'm an NCC councillor as well, so that those nudges from local councils from NCC, those messages that were sending to South Tyneside who did see the motion and saw my follow-up answer and heard my question as well, they will hopefully, the reason they're reviewing it is actually that reason. And they're looking into very much, I think, moving away from carbon, certainly. So we should hear more in the new year. It might be too late to be on the strategy for 24-25, the officers told me, but if that, I mean, that's a huge signal if that happens. So when we know, we will relay it straight back. But that was my follow-up today on the minutes, so thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Barry Collins. I was just wondering if, reference to last minutes, if you had any feedback of the meeting you were going to go to with Tyndale Local Area Committee about the drainage building. Well, are you sure?
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
well, along the West Road, right?
Look photographs.
Well, I looked at some today and hadn't been done. There was, well, my observations this afternoon showed there was some that hadn't been done. Well, if you say it's been done, doesn't look very efficient to me, but never mind, I shall look again. And I was just wondering, is there some planned maintenance? Is there time limit? Did it do it every year? It doesn't seem, I mean, I've got where a street where I put into the county council 4 years ago, and it's still not fixed yet, you know, but never mind. So you say the West Road has been done, has it?
6th of November,
Right. Well, I looked at some outside the council offices today, right, and it looks too good. Never mind.
I've done the whole lot, but
Oh,
yeah,
right.
that one
So
is
it's
definitely
progress. It's progress.
Yeah.
Right. So they do it every year, they say, or?
No, they do it every 10 weeks, so you report it's nice street, it's what needs done, over this programme, see you.
Right. Thank you.
Hello. Thank you so much. Right, okay, so we now shall return to item number 7, which is Wendy Dale, chairperson of the Tyndale University Concerned Age. Thank you very much.
Thank you. We call it U3A these days because we found that university puts people off. But Tyndale U3A is celebrating 40 years. So I'm glad you invited me here today. The movement started 41 years ago, so we were one of the early ones. I think we were in the first 10. We haven't got any founder members because the membership is generally from 50 to 90. So it's for people that are in retirement or semi-retirement. We've got 500 members, which is a real boost, and I think you should be pleased that it's complementing a good aging, really, because we're about learning, living and laughing, and that's why I have this rolling thing to show you some of the groups that we have. We have 50 plus interest groups, and they all take place in different places. Some groups, some of the language groups and book reading groups meet in people's houses, and some make use of this building, and some use other community buildings around. We make good use of the Newcastle Building Society. We make use of the county when they give us rooms, as long as we have coffee or drinks there, and similar. So we're very much a vibrant group in Tyndale. And I think one of the good things about us is that we are bringing new people in all the time. So I've seen other U3As really struggle because they haven't got the changeover, the new blood coming into the organisation. And I think we survived COVID while others didn't, because we had younger members that could do Zoom and engage with people on electronically. So
besides having lots of groups that we have a programme and each group has its own convener, we also have a newsletter and we have a monthly meeting that meets here on the first Tuesday in the afternoon every month. And that, I realise, has been happening since 1983. So, I mean, it's been going, not all here, but there has been a meeting going on that long. So, I feel that we recruit a lot of people that have moved into Hexham. And in actual fact, the reason I got involved was because my mother moved up to live near me when my father died. And it was the estate agent that said to her, "You want to join U3A?" And I said, "Well, I'll go along with you to support you in that." But that's how I got involved. And I find that lots of people coming in, and lots have come from other U3As, so they bring new things in. We've had a variety of groups, but some go, depending on the makeup of the groups, things change. Like we haven't got a creative writing group at the moment, and there are other groups that I know we've had in the past that gone, but new ones are emerging. And today I've heard that there's somebody that's a natural history lecturer that wants to set up a new plant group. So the sort of people are coming in, and they bring their own ideas of what they want to do. We find out if there's any interest, and that's how it happens. So in this room, a couple of weeks ago, we invited people that were interested in finding out about us or new members, and there were 30 people in this room. So it feels very vibrant, very robust at the moment. Things do dip, and I know when I joined 7 years ago, there were only 270 members, but it has risen and it keeps rising at the moment. One of the things that's recently, Facebook has been an issue for us. A lot of the committee in the past said, "Oh, we don't want to go down that route of engaging in Facebook," but actually, because we had that committee member that got it going, that has drawn lots of new people. So that's us, really. If you do ask some questions.
Yeah, any questions? So, Emma?
Thank you very much for coming to talk to us. I think that the U3A is just a hidden secret, and it's so fantastic. So I had something to do with it years and years ago when I was running Hexham campus, and your creative writer group got stuck, because, so I'm interested in the model. Could you tell us a bit more about that model? Does somebody say, for example, you're a plant person?
Yes.
Do they say, well, basically, because I'm interested and have the expertise, I'll convene a group?
It doesn't have to have the expertise. If you've got an interest, you come along and, like this coffee morning that we had for new members, we're seeking out what people bring and what people are interested in doing, and then we advertise it in the newsletter and we link people up together. So that's how it gets going, and we find out if it's got a momentum. When we were approached about setting up a Latin group, we laughed. But actually, now we've got 2 Latin groups. And then somebody said they wanted a Welsh group. Well, we thought that's a no-go. And now we've got 2, a North and a South Welsh group. So, I mean, it is really very interesting about what takes the imagination. So, and some things just plummet. We haven't got a dance group, and somebody wants a dance group, but because you're a member of Tyndale, you can go to Prudder, who've got a dance group, and you can be an associate member of another. And Prudder is the one that we've linked with mostly. And because we're so big, we don't need others, but we want to encourage friendships with other U3As. So there is a regional network and a national network. And the national network is called the Third Age Trust, which we pay a contribution to per member. And that covers us for insurance, and it has lots of the policies that we need as trustees, because the committee of the trustees, we're a registered charity in our own right, but the trustees are the committee of the trustees. But we've got this support of the Third Age Trust, so if there were any insurance claims or anything else that we needed advice on. And they also have got lots of things on their website, so if we wanted to set up a new group, and we haven't got the expertise, you could go on the website and probably find some other group in the country that was running something and find out how to do it. And I mean, lots of people just want to get into research. People want to learn, don't they? So this afternoon I've been in a wildlife group, and we were at the county because we couldn't go out. But there was somebody from Wallington, a volunteer at Wallington, who was doing a talk about the beavers, and somebody else was, I'm just trying to think what the other talk was about. Oh, it was about orchids in this country. So there was two very different people had gone on and done some research and came and did a presentation.
Thank you.
Alison?
I'd like to know when the third age starts, please.
So we have had a member in her 40s, but generally it's people can join from 50 onwards. Well, it's when you're sending
So
to
you're in love,
time.
Alison, that's
Oh.
You're well within the boundaries
Do all the groups meet during the working day?
Well, they tend to, yes. But that
Because of
doesn't
the
have to
nature of the beast.
Yeah, that doesn't have to be the case. But yes, I think one of the issues when I joined was everybody was in their own small groups, and we lost that ability to do things because we got bigger. I think we didn't do enough events and go on trips and do other things, and we've tried to recreate that again. So there's more of a social side. But everybody was so focused on you've got to learn in whatever you do. Well, actually, some of our members just need to meet and socialise. So we needed to create those sort of things. So, yeah, so we do have a few things in the evening, but not very regular.
I'm just wearing the Hexham Community Centre hat. We've got on a number of events and struggle sometimes to get people to them. Indoor halls is an example that's reached around. After today's meeting, would it be possible to meet up with yourself?
Yeah.
And say, this is what we do, and if you've got a demand for something that we could put on, we'd be delighted to share that with you. But I think what we do is the next.
Yeah, I think some of the issues are the costs.
Yeah.
So we actually, membership's only £14 because we're not, at one time it was a lot higher when we had premises at the Trinity Methodist Church. We had rooms upstairs, and it wasn't acceptable for access issues, and we were looking elsewhere. But so membership reduced, but then people had to pay for their own premises, and some people can find a free room they will rather than pay.
Yeah, well, it's
But
not necessarily we put things on for free
Yeah.
because we get external funding.
Yeah.
So as a consequence, we may be able to offer your members something almost free of charge.
Yeah.
So it's just about producing more people to share the facility rather than trying to make a cost over the profit out of yourselves. Well done.
So if I may just ask, so I was just going to ask about that and say, how do you do funding, what's your location and all that type of stuff. So could you just the nuts and bolts of how that works?
How the funding works?
Yeah. So how do you fund yourselves? How do you?
Everybody pays a membership, so
And
it's
it's
£14.
What just one off?
No, just sorry, a year. It's an annual membership.
Oh, an annual.
Yes, we have an annual membership. Yes, we are in quite a good financial position. We keep saving money, and we're a charity. We've got to dispose of income. So at the moment, we're trying to manage that. But
Do you get donations and things?
they did in the early stage. I think they got something from the Northern Rock in the early days, and there have been other donations. And I noticed in the minutes of earlier meetings in the 80s, they were actually doing a lot of fundraising.
Right.
But Newcastle U3A has got its own building that they have in Pink Lane, so they have a lot of overheads, whereas we haven't got any overheads. So
Right.
we try and keep those costs down to keep memberships in.
Can I just make one observation?
Yeah.
So, that photograph of the French person thing, it's I just find it really sort of
Right.
stereotypical.
Yes, well, it's
The
supposed to
French
be
thing with
amusing,
the
yes.
onions wearing the straight.
It's all supposed to be light-hearted and amusing. But
It's a bit like, if it was somebody about Newcastle with a black cap and a whipping, I don't think that'd be.
You would be offended.
I think if there was a couple of people talking outside in front of the, Eiffel Tower or something.
Right, I'll report back.
But no, I think it's been. I think it's fantastic. It's not. I've heard of youth many times, but never really knew what it was and its messaging, because it just sounds such a wonderful organisation. you know, like learning and bringing people together and, you know, and relationships.
If you have to go to the doctors, you should see it on there, advertised there, because it's, you know, it has health benefits of being part of it.
Can I just make one last observation, because I really, I mean, I've been a great supporter of the U3A since I discovered it, you know, nearly 30 years ago. I think it's a truly democratic.
Was that when you were 50?
I do apologise on behalf.
Second big penny.
As I was saying, Wendy, before the battle started, is that it's a truly democratic model of education. And I think it's absolutely fantastic, and it's something that is, I think, I mean, presumably research has been done on, papers are written on it, but I think it's worthy of further scrutiny, because it's about the resource which is the people, the appetite that is the people, the knowledge and the experience that is the people, bringing those people together in order to serve the needs of the people. Fantastic.
Really interesting people that we have, yes.
Yeah,
And you remember when we were the happy, Hexham was the happiest place.
What do you mean? What do you mean? What do you mean?
Well, it is, it still is.
Not
But,
that it is.
yes, at that time, when it got so publicity, in one of the papers it said the U3A was part of that.
Yeah.
Right.
So it did get noticed.
So could you just ask, could you send us some publicity stuff so we can
Oh,
try
yeah,
and just,
I can.
we'll try and publicise if that's,
Yes.
you know, if you're interested, you know, because we've got quite a big social media presence nowadays, and if we can, you know, every so frequently.
It's the 40th birthday.
Yeah,
Happy to
yeah.
celebrate that.
Well, Faye came along to our
Oh, yeah,
report.
yes, that's right, yeah. If we do that, you know, if we could. sort of-
And Hexham TV did something for us.
Yeah.
So, yes.
Absolutely, so if we can do, you know, a bit of publicity on something.
Thank you very much.
Well, that's excellent,
Thank you.
Really, really
Thank you.
interesting. Right, so we shall now go on to number 2, apologies for absence. Declarations of interest, if any? None, okay. Okay, so to agree, the full town council meeting of the 9th of October, so the minutes, so I'll just go through these, so it's page 2, page 3, page 4. Okay, permission to sign. So the next one is the minutes of the extraordinary town council meeting held on 30 October 2023, page number 5. Are we okay with that? Yeah. Well, we'll make that.
Okay.
Yeah.
A small amendment.
Yes, small amendment, as requested. Yes, we'll do it.
So, yeah, just to confirm, so a new town clerk has been appointed.
Yes, so the new town clerk has been appointed, and it will join us 8th of January.
Good.
Yes.
Well done to the staffing committee.
Thank you. That's good. So right, so that's 1-5 done. So 6 matters arising, not on the agenda, for report only, if any.
I've got 2. First of all, on the new clerk, is there a bedding period, a probationary period where Jane or the locum will work alongside of them? Has that been put in place?
Yes.
And the second one is just to note, yesterday's Remembrance Sunday, that was absolutely fantastic.
So I'll bring that up with our mayor's announcements.
Yeah, I just wanted to congratulate
Thank you.
Lee, obviously Suzanne,
Yeah.
and you proved it well there. I'm just noting that.
Thank you. Okay, very good. Right, Right, the next item is number 9, which is to receive an update from councillors Aitken and Brennan on the former HMS site consultation. Are you plugging in? Right, I'll do main announcements while you're preparing. Right, main announcements. So, oh, it's been busy. It's been busy, guys. Busy. So, I had the wonderful experience of, so I've been dressing up a lot, drastically said. I had the wonderful experience of, on the 21st of October, where I was asked to host the Foscas. So the Foscas is the Forum Oscars, in which we had 2 of our special needs groups, Stage Fright, who are based in the community centre, yeah, and Gateway in the Community, who we've met many times before. And they both did a 5-minute movie each, and that was on the cinema. And then there was a sing-along to the movie The Greatest Showman. So what was wonderful about that was not only was the attendance by the people from these groups, but also members of the public, which actually included Faye and Penny with chance. So members of the public could actually go along, and so everybody was having a wonderful time. So everybody was singing along and what have you. So it was absolutely fantastic. So heartwarming. So I dressed up as the Greatest Showman, and as the film ended, I sort of like opened the curtains and burst out into 3 dimensions. And I had like 10 little mini Oscars to several of the members of these 2 communities. So what a wonderful time. It was just so good. I know my son Oscar here at the time of his life, actually, he was absolutely bellowing all me singing along. So it was a wonderful time. Our next one was Spook Night. So again, brilliant work by Hexham Community Partnership, particularly Jez and his team, who just every single time they put an event on together, it's just full top class. So thanks to everybody who volunteered and put all the effort in. I think it's great that the public really get involved. Not only do the children get dressed up, but I think it's fantastic when you see sort of adults and even the teens getting dressed up as well. Really sort of becoming like a town event as opposed to just a few rides and this, that, just really getting involved. So, so we had. So I went as ever as Count Dracula, and we had Helen Werewolf as the werewolf of the town cry. so we did the judging of all the different costumes and animals and creatures and all the age groups as well. So that's just a wonderful night. Shame about that, but it goes from strength to strength. Last weekend, or just the last couple of days, we've had the Remembrance. So again, my big thanks go to Suzanne, who chaired the Remembrance Committee, and all those who are on the Remembrance Committee, because it takes an awful lot of work behind the scenes to organise Remembrance Weekend. It's a very sombre occasion, and really brings it home. On the Saturday, we had the laying of poppies at the military graves, so we had the cadets with us, and actually there was a really nice request from the officer there, and he said, could we get the actual cadets to lay the poppy crosses at the gravestones, so which is what we did. It was just nice to do that. So there's about 50 military graves in Hexham cemetery. The cemetery was looking fantastic here, really pristine by Stephen English and the team. So it was very touching to do that. I also attended the Hexham Hospital to lay a wreath on behalf of the Town Council on the Saturday lunchtime. Remembrance Day on the Sunday. Again, I just think it's a service that Hexham Town Council has always done exceptionally well, and I think we've carried that torch and introduced some additions, which I think all work very well. And certainly, one thing I tried to influence as much as I could on this was to actually is to bring the Hexhamness to this. So certainly. I was very interested in Wilfred Gibson, who was our Hexham's war poet from World War One. It was to read his poem, Comrades. And I just think, because he just lived around the corner from the park, and I just think it just really brings it home that these are living, breathing people who actually were part of our community. And also, the great work done by Tom Galanders, where he went through all of those people who are actually listed on the memorial, of short biographies of who these people were, where they lived, and and how they demised. And I was really trying to work out how to bring that into that service. And we did it last year. We've continued it again this year. And I don't know. Just for me, it just means it's very moving and really brings the Hexhamness of all of this together. Of those individuals who lived in some of the houses that we live in now. The houses that are around Hexham are very, very old. So people lived in the houses that people live now have actually served that country. So I think that all went very well. Certainly, the feedback has been extremely positive. I'll bring you in, Stephen, if you want to see it.
No, I was an observer to very Hexham, as you said. I had some lovely stories afterwards. A lot of young people there. Hexham Middle School, who were criticised before, they played their part right up front in re-engaging with the community, which I thought was excellent. But perhaps the nicest story was somebody from the Beavers, Jill Goodfeather, who was manager. She's was on the team, obviously one of their little kids had a great grandfather's medals on. And when she said that, I'm speaking to you now, I filled up.
Yeah.
And that sort of brought it to life. And,
Yes.
And for an actual remembrance occasion, and it was. I also regard this, and you might think it's a bit strange. It's almost a thank you. It's almost a thank you, and remembering the military aspect of it. So thank you for doing what you did. But I thought the actual occasion was spot on.
Yeah, thank you. Certainly the commanding officer who was there, he's only been in Hexham very short time, just weeks, and he was very complimentary of what he had seen, and he thought it was, standing around in the park looked amazing. It's autumnal colours. The wonderful work done by the ladies who do all this, the stitching of the poppies, and it just grows every year, and it's just colours, and it's just a memorial of that. It's just fantastic. Also on the Saturday, I went to the commemoration of life for a former councillor here. He actually joined the council on the same day as I did in 2003. Some of you may know Colin John Moss, who owned the gallery on Hallgates. So he died on the 18th of October, and there was a gathering in the Corbridge Parish Hall on the 11th of November, so I attended that. It was just quite interesting. So I think it would be worthy if we could just have a quick minute silence for a former member of this council. So if we could just Right, so, yeah.
Sorry, was there one eviction there?
What's the one?
I think there was one eviction. I wanted to say how much I very much enjoyed the fireworks.
Oh, of course, the favourites, I do apologise.
Really
Yes, the favourites.
enjoyed it.
Yeah,
I
good.
thought the atmosphere of the music was fantastic, really enjoyable.
Yeah, very good. There's apologies for that, yes, the favourites, just for that in the 10, wasn't
Did
it?
you know how much we made?
Yes, I'll talk you.
Brilliant.
Yes, so again, our thanks to, so the Hexham Town Council led the fireworks this year, and we engaged with the Hexham Community Partnership and our volunteer charity organisations, and you know, put on a good event. We picked it up as part of our responsibilities now from the former round table used to do it. It's just getting, I think, very it's very big to organise. I think it just was getting beyond their capabilities, so we've stepped in and said, right, we should run it. I think the amount of money that's being collected this year, because it is a donation, we thank everybody who attended, and their donations will be enough, hopefully, to get us running for 2024. Good. Right. We shall go to the item number 9, which is an update on the Hexham Middle School site consultation.
Right, are we ready to go?
I think we're ready to go. We'll do double act, just like we did.
So I'm going to just talk, recap on the background that actually everybody knows, but just to remind you really. Obviously that the Hexham Middle School site is empty. It has been occupied since the school moved to the new site by filming companies in the main. Suzanne and I got together earlier this year because we thought that it was time to ask the town what they thought this site should be used for, because personally, and I think a lot of people share this view, that the Hexham Middle site is a school site, is a huge asset, could be a huge asset, so it's one of our biggest assets. And there's been various discussions going on and various ideas around what it could be used for. So we had the novel idea of putting democracy into action and asking people what it is they would like to see that site used for in their own town. So we came up with a questionnaire.
Came up with a questionnaire. Yes, we were worried that it would be a short consult and with kind of angled questions. So we kept it very open. We didn't want to feed anyone any ideas that might not be practical. I mean, the school's been there on this site for over 100 years. Bits of it are listed, so it's a problematic site. Bits of it are owned by the FA at the front. And so, but there's enough, it's huge, it's a massive site. If you look at it aerially, it's almost as big as the Seal Park. You know, there's lots that can be done with it. It doesn't have to be one size fits all. So we decided that the 3 categories would be housing, community and the environment. And we give options on that, so you can sort of see the layout of the form. We gave a layout of the site. Obviously, we need a name and postcode, residents of Hexham. The top one there is the housing, so we gave options of affordable housing, less than the market rate, private housing, sheltered accommodation, social housing or other, and opportunities to comment as well if people wanted. And they did. Community facilities, we went to, let's have a look, play area, as you can see, hang on, the scroll's not very good on this one. Yes, so childcare provision, because there was a site there for day and gyms, community groups or community hub, playground and play areas and other. With the options on that one, and the final one was environment of the outdoors. So there's community energy project, community garden, green spaces, orchard, and other as well. We also mentioned the existing community garden that's there, that's a sort of powerful asset as well. Moment with the garden team May time. We ran it on our comms for about a month, but more or less within sort of 2-3 weeks we'd had 179 respondents to the questionnaire, which I thought was fairly healthy and we're very pleased with. So the first responses were about residents of Hexham. So as you can see, 93.3% were residents of Hexham, and other people answered too. So obviously it got an interest in the town and the site itself. Do you think Hexham residents should have a say in the future of the old HMS site? 99.4% yes, a huge percentage there. I mean, that was the purpose, was to give voice to people who wanted to hear. So overwhelmingly on the housing front, as you can see, so 64% had wanted affordable housing less than the market rate. Private housing less so, so quarter, 24%. And sheltered accommodation, 24% again, and social housing, 49%. So by and large, the two biggest respondents were the social housing, affordable housing groups. It is a big site. It doesn't have to be covered in housing, but there could be provision for that there somewhere on the site. Then there was the community responses. So that was overwhelmingly for playground and play areas. I mean, it's a huge, vast green space, hectares of green space that's already used for dog walkers and leisure. Even though the BBC were there, they were letting people on to walk their dogs. So it's a busy site. We also had looking into community hub and community groups and childcare, all massive proportions of the survey, with extras added here, which I'll have a look at in a minute. So those are the extra comments that we allowed, and there were some really interesting things came up in that, and lots of repeat suggestions as well, which shows sort of how strongly people felt about certain things that were missing from Hexham. The final one was the environment. So we have the community garden, obviously yes to, big yes to. Green spaces, 78%. Community energy project, 53.1%. And the orchard, 61%. And bearing in mind, these are not percentages made up, they could pick as many as they liked. So that's why the percentages don't tally. I should have mentioned that earlier. And then comments beneath. So all in all, and finally, the community garden to be retained in the same place in the site, not moved. 95% of respondents wanted that. So yes, all in all, it was a good survey, and I think we are able, with the postcodes, to feed that back to NCC before they do their consult on the site, which I think is meant to be due about now, their master plan. I mean, it's been 2 years in the drawing up, so we shall see how soon that happens. We've been waiting a long time. Admittedly, they have opened it up for access to other things, so that is good for the town, but it's temporary, it's not the long-term solution. A lot of the feedback suggested things like football clubs in Hexham East, pop-up shops. SEND school came up quite a lot, so a school for children with SEND or additional needs, which is very much needed now, and not having people travel to Blythe was interesting, as it is a school and possibly could be reused as such. Retention of the listed buildings. I mean, there was, yes, football, sports came up, community energy came up, more allotments came up a few times, not just once. But I thought one of the most powerful responses was, please consider local people's opinions and not just as a council money-making opportunity, was one of the final comments. And I thought, yes. So best value for the town isn't necessarily the same thing as best value for NCC, and we wanted to make sure that the value of the town was seem as quite valuable when the master plan is unveiled soon. So, thank you.
So I'd just like to make one observation about this, is that those findings, I think, accord with the opinions of the town council. So we are not at variance with our residents. And we have to bear that in mind. That's a really strong position to be in. And I think that we need to exercise as much influence as we possibly can to make sure that that site is developed in the right way for the people of Hexham. Yes.
Can I just ask,
So the questions.
who actually owns the site? Is it Hadrian's Trust? Is it Northumberland County Council? Because that leads me to a whole raft of other questions.
Northumberland County Council,
They own the site.
the FA, yes, it was the Hadrian Trust, but it's transferred, so it's Northumberland County Council.
Was there a deal done when the new school was built that the receipts from that site would go towards the cost of the school?
There was, so practically speaking, yes, some of that would be recouped against the building of the new school, 37, 38 million, I think was the new school. So I think they wanted to recoup, the cost saving identified 3 million, I think they were hoping to get for bits of the site to recoup against the 37, I'm pretty sure it's 37 or 38 million for QE new build. So that I've heard is in there, that's what they want to recoup. I mean, it'd be silly to build a new school without selling off the assets of the old and putting something against it. But it's such a huge site. It's not, not just an old school. It's so much land. It's a huge plot of Hexham.
I know you've worked alongside Hexham Civic Society. One of the things I did mention at their meeting was the site's not really good for development, which is a good thing for what you're saying in terms of housing, in terms of access. There's a problem with asbestos. There's a problem with the playing field. If you want sports facilities, well, better to have a playing field already in position. And the fact it's a listed building. My worry is that finding £3 million might be a problem in terms of them meeting budget requirements. It's not a negative, but it's just an observation. I think I'm with you, and if we were designing this on literally a green piece of paper, that's what we'd be looking for. But I think there will be restrictions going forward.
Yeah, no, I agree. There are restrictions and buildings have to come down. Asbestos is a thing. But I think the demand, genuinely affordable housing in Hexham is so massive, so big. I think we're about 530 houses behind what we need to be, roughly that number, don't quote me. Surely the best value for Hexham from this site is putting something on that is needed in town. Now, whether you sell that to a big developer or one of the smaller developers who does work and does things on a smaller scale and locally and fits in genuine affordable houses. I mean, we've seen some developers in town who are promising that right now, but I think that you could have both on that site quite easily.
Would you be in favour of a phased development then?
What
I've been told that for a lot of the smaller contractors, it's too big. And forgive me, the bigger contractors are all out for making a profit, not necessarily for community gardens, will get away with what they get away with. Is there a case forward for doing it as a phased development? I just asked that question.
I would hope so. I've yet to see the master plan, but
there is a master plan, is there?
It's on its way, we've been told, by the estate team at Northumberland County Council. So it's still on its way. So ahead of that, we anticipated it would take a while. So we've.
And I'm pleased you've positioned yourself as a civic society with a position of the community first. So you go into discussions with that rather than a reaction. Well done.
Right, any other questions? I'll come in. Northumberland County Council, has said it wants to build a number. I don't know what that number is, but a large number of affordable housing and the housing of that ilk. And it's nice to have those numbers strategically. So this was actually raised at the last county council meeting, just a couple of weeks ago. And Colin Horncastle, Councillor Colin Horncastle, who's the cabinet member for housing. And here, this site was actually brought up during that debate, and I needed to get the extract of that word when I was sitting right in front of Colin when he was making these announcements. And he said, that this land, because it's owned by county council, it's not privately owned, it's not owned by somebody else, it is now in the gift of the county council. It has control. So it has an opportunity, like no other opportunity you'll ever have. You have a big piece of land, and if it really wants to commit to delivering on, the fine words of we want affordable housing, we want, social housing, this is the best opportunity in all of Northumberland to do that. So we need, as the town council and us as county councillors, need to hold them to account to do that, because it is what we believe in as the council, and obviously we've seen the outcome of these responses to a fair consult, and it says exactly the same as well. So everything points in a direction, and if it doesn't come about, then it means somebody steered the ship in a different direction. That's what everybody else wanted it to do. So we need, this has got to be our mission now to make this happen in the best way we can. So, question: has this been shared with the county council?
Not yet. I wanted to present it here first. I have questions.
That's the right answer.
And then the county council, and then the newspaper.
Yeah.
So it's published.
Yeah, absolutely. So that's the right thing to do. It comes here, us to endorse it, to ratify it, to say press. Mike?
Good piece of work, totally support it. I'm just thinking if somebody wants to throw a stone, they could say 179 out of 6,000 or 12,000 residents are making 2%. So just to be prepared.
No, I am prepared for it. We ran it it was about a month. It got a huge response straight away, and then like everything at Petersdown, we raised it again at Civic Society meeting that was on affordable housing, and people filled in a bit after that. But I think you can get something called consultation fatigue, quite frankly. So by getting ahead of it, even if it just feeds in to theirs, it's a valuable piece in its own right. So those 179 people clearly feel very passionate about this site, as do we. And so it stands just as what it is.
And also I would counter that with, I wonder what the results are of other consultations that the county council runs. And also, it's quite a niche consultation. If you live right in the west and never go to the east, and you don't have, you've got your own home and you don't walk your dog there or whatever. So actually, it's not a consult. It was a consultation for the whole town, but realistically, it's not. It's for people, and that's why an analysis of the postcodes would be so interesting. It will be people who are affected by the absence of that resource now, because it's being used by film companies. So I don't think that's apples and pears really, and I think that we can totally dispute that. But the other thing I'd like to say, just to agree with what Derek has said, is that we've got policies that absolutely, and pieces of work like the town plan and all the rest of it, that actually document how far we are falling behind in terms of providing proper affordable housing for people. That green space is being built on all the time in ways that they don't necessarily have to be. And we need to be on it. We need to be really aware of what our position is, supported by that in order to challenge anything else that comes up. So I think this is the beginning of us actually exercising some influence on the outcome.
I hope so.
This is not the end of anything. This is the start, and now we've got evidence that actually we're not making it up.
In terms of timescale, where do we go with that? I mean, for me, this should be the biggest issue in Hexham at the next county council elections.
Yes.
And that's a great plus for whatever we think as a collective. group thingy, whatever we want to call it. Does that fit in with your time scale assumptions?
Yes, I mean, I think there are a number of big issues in Hexham, including the bus station as well. I think there's a estates issue there.
Right.
Yes, I think, well, it's 2 years now it's been, so presumably they'll get around to presenting this next year, and the election may be the end of next year, I don't know. So yes, it might be a political hot potato, the election. I don't see why not. It seems to me it's been...
No, not
Local.
right. No, May 2025, as I remember.
Oh, for that.
So I'd like a bit of clarity. What do you mean about it being a political?
Well, if I was, not that I am, if I was very political, this should be front and side and backwards, everything facing on. We would fight on this to get it delivered.
Well,
and it's just whether there's the budget, lots of political speak, but there's just whether there's the willingness and the political budget to fund this.
Well, back to the locals, I see what you're saying, sorry. I ran with this priority in the by-election and talked to people on the doors about it as I was going around and was then elected. So I'm hoping that between that being at the start of being elected, and all of us were elected in the same year, and then the end of our term here, that yes, I would like to think that something will happen with it.
Well,
if that was
there's more of a political willingness to do it across the board now than there's ever been. It's just whether there's the political money to do it.
Right, okay.
So Stephen is reading the rooms.
Thank
Thank you very much. Excellent, thank you.
So we'll come to this again.
Yes.
We'll come to this subject again in no doubt, because obviously the county council will be doing their consult. We'll be part of that, and we want to see all those things. So this is not going anywhere. So this is a staging post on a long journey. But we need to ramp up that pressure as a town council, as county councillors to say, look, there's some great work there. It would have been the easy thing to do, would have been to do nothing and just let counties take all the decisions. So I think, to both Councillor Brennan and Travis Aiken, thanks for really grabbing hold of this and actually doing something. But this could easily drift out of our control and just get told rather than being effective. Right.
12.
So, sorry. Yes, I have. Agreement for the council payment. We're on. So page 7, page 8, okay. Page 9, and page 10. Okay, thank you. Next item is to agree the financial risk assessment. So this is on page 11. So this is an annual thing that we have to do. Page 11, page 12, page 13, page 14, and page 15. Okay. To note, the draft minutes enclose the committee meetings held in October, so we start at page 16, so that was the planning and infrastructure meeting of 17 October. That's page 16, 17, 18, 19, and 20. 21. Community engagement meeting, remembrance subcommittee held on 19 October. page 21, page 22. Community Engagement Committee held on the 19th of October, page 23. Yep, done.
Just a query about CD 2331. I understand the decision was made not to invite Nick Morford. I would have voted against that, but that's fine. But instead of having him, you're going to ask Northumbrian Water.
Yes.
Could Northumbria Water not just be asked to come and present to us, because they'll talk about anything and everything except the pollution, the state of the river,
Yeah, water
and
quality.
how much sewage actually is deposited
Yes.
in the North Tyne? Could it be specific to that?
Yes, that's exactly what we want.
Excellent.
Yeah, so it's water quality.
Yeah.
Have they been invited?
So I've written to the clerk, and I don't know if it's spelled between Jane and
It would be Helen, because
Helen.
Helen's looking at the beer on.
yes. So I've done that. So Helen may have, we'll check with Helen to see if that's been done. But I have written to them straight after this, after that meeting. So Helen will be doing that. But yes, absolutely, John, absolutely right. So it's a very important matter, and we need to get the authorities involved so we can ask them a lot of questions. Page 24, page 25, page 26. Then the Finance and General Purposes meeting of 24th of October, page 26, 27, and 28. Okay. That's good.
Correspondence, Jane?
Okay, you've received information relating to NALC e-news and events, CAM e-news, Northumberland CBA voice e-bulletins, temporary traffic regulation orders relating to Elveston Road, Hackwood Park Footway, Argyle Terrace, Birmingham Terrace, Priest Bobble, Eastgate, Limmels Bank, Aylmouth Road, and the Spook Night Remembrance Day, the Lantern Parade and Christmas Lights Switch On, Christmas Probe November newsletter, a funding e-bulletin, an invitation to the McCarthy Stone exhibition on the 25th of October, the Hexham Living Wage meeting interviews, on carbon literacy for town and parish councils, county council information on the Environment and Climate Fund, an invitation to the Tynedale Floods Forum, which will be on the 30th of November, Thriving Together newsletter, Hexham Civic Society's views v Southeast Priest Bottles planning application, an invitation to the Adapt North East AGM on the 24th of November, the Department for Health £1 million defibrillator fund, information on the Carers' Rights Day, which is the 23rd of November, County Council call for rural projects in Northumberland, County Council consultation on Hexham to Corbridge active travel scheme, information on Hazard Talk and historic buildings, which will be on the 21st of November, and Hexham Civic Society comments on the Garvey Service scheme on station.
Fantastic. Right, thank you. So that's good. So excellent. So that's the end of the meeting. Thank you all very, very much. Very entertaining and really interesting.